welcome back to Salmon's Pizzeria, where we are back for the second episode of the season of the Championship Penitentiary, on a week where eclipses seem to overshadow everything. When it comes to the footballing world, it is of course the Scottish Championship that rules above all. I am of course your host Callum Blythe, and I am joined this week by Enzo. How are you, Enzo?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Callum. Normally, when I come on this podcast, I'm wearing some Queen's Park top I mean, it could be from a couple of years ago, it could be from 10, 15 years ago, it could be from 20 years ago, but I got home in a bit of a hurry tonight, and I'm just wearing a blue t-shirt, unfortunately, but I do have a Queen's Park mug with tea in it, so that's going to have to suffice this evening. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm doing all good. I've been a bit busy just with other things. I wasn't able to get to the game, at the weekend. But thankfully, no, it was between Raith and Queens Park, so you're
Got me
obviously.
here, yeah.
But we'll get onto that later, because whilst unfortunately we are missing Kieran Ashton, it doesn't mean we're not going to cover it, and it's of course the first Friday night under the lights game of the season, as it was between Partick Thistle and Livingston, the two title favourites facing off at Firhill, with both sides looking to build on their opening day victories. And with this one, Thistle would take an early lead thanks to Robbie Crawford, basically mirroring Robbie Muirhead's goal for Livingston last week.
Yeah,
Ball just comes into the box, low cross, and again, same as Robbie Muirhead did last week, where he just does like a flick between the legs behind him, finds the bottom corner, and that's just 4 minutes in. After that, though, again, there would be another chance for Thistle. Livingston would hit the bar from the edge of the box. I'm not sure who it was, but it was a volley from the edge. But there'd be a bit of a stramash just before half time, and the ball just kind of went all over the shop and then just went out wide, and like a driven ball in just ends up hitting off of Cammy McPherson, finding its way into the back of the Livingston net, making it 2-0 just before half time. Second half would see both sides have a few chances, with Thistle arguably having the better opportunities, with one of them hitting the post, but the game would end up finishing with a comfortable 2-0 win for the home side. For this one, I'd say it was the right result. Yeah, Thistle definitely looked the stronger of the two. Livingston definitely would be disappointed considering how well they played last week against Queen's Park. There were people saying before the game how this could maybe be, whoever wins, it would be like a statement victory. Like this would be the one that would decide where the title goes in May or whatever. We're 2 games in, but in regards to putting an early like sword in the ground as being early marker, I'd have to agree, because this was a pretty good performance from Partick Thistle. Enzo, your thoughts on this game and the two sides?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go, look, we're 2 games into the season, nothing's been decided yet. Less than the result, though, what I would say is that the performance itself might be a bit of a marker for Thistle, because they were excellent on Friday night. I watched the game on TV. I mean, I was thoroughly impressed by the performance, the build-up play. I have to call him out. Queen's Park hero for his goal at Ibrox, Seb Drozd, was in my view, the best player in the park on the evening. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I think, I did think he would go to Thistle and do well. I'm slightly surprised by how well he's doing. And he's the kind of player that, he'll have good spells and then he'll maybe fall off for a little bit. But with the better players around him, he's very clearly in the right place for him to develop further. And I think Thistle fans seem to have taken to him quite a lot, given he's only played a few games at this point in his career. They seem to have, he's becoming a bit of a fan favourite already. So fair play to him. But they were. That's the kind of performance. When I think of Partick Thistle are playing well, that is exactly the kind of performance that I think of. I will say though, I was a little bit, I've obviously seen Livingston already, because I was through there last week when we went through to Almondvale to play them in the season opener. And while I don't think they were spectacular when they played against us, and obviously Partick Thistle are a better team than us, a higher calibre of opposition, and you're going away, you're not playing at home, I was a little bit disappointed by them on Friday. I'll be honest. I think they really, really struggled to create anything. The midfield was fairly pedestrian and lacklustre, and then as a result of that, the forwards weren't really involved too much either. And I think Glenn Whelan, he sounded quite disappointed in his post-match interview, and I can understand it. Like I think he's going to be, I don't imagine that they'll replicate that level of performance much over the course of the season. So maybe it's a good thing to help him understand what he needs to sort out going forward. But yeah, I thought overall, absolutely nobody can have any complaints about how that game ended. Thistle were definitely the better team on the night. They played brilliantly, if you ask me. And I think Thistle fans are right to be excited about this season. They're right to be feeling confident at this stage. But obviously, absolutely nothing's been decided yet, and it won't be for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's like there were a couple of players. It's like one of the players that I pointed out last week was Tyrese Sinclair for Livingston. I thought he was really good against Queen's Park.
He was fantastic against.
I don't think there was anything. I don't think he really showed anything in that game on Friday. You were mentioning Seb Jost, and it was in amongst all the excitement of the Thistle fans that I learned that he is not part Polish, as I was thinking.
Romanian.
His last name. Yeah, he's born in England to Romanian parents. I'd seen
that's right.
Someone say about Seb Jost, he's one who'll end up getting a Romania call up at some point. I'm thinking to myself, well, come on, he's in the Scottish Championship right now, but he's 23, and you never know. You never know.
Maybe one day, but not
maybe
quite.
One day, but not whilst at Partick Thistle. So I can understand the excitement after a performance like what he had on Friday, but I think it's a bit too early to be making those kind of calls. But just as I was saying, like a proper statement performance from Thistle. A lot of people have been asking if this will be the year that Thistle will finally do it, and a performance like that against what is expected to be your title rival, it really cements this can be the year. And I think doing it so early can give them a bit of momentum going forward, whilst Livingston are going to have to probably pick themselves up a bit in the coming weeks, just after something like that.
Yeah, and look, and the players will be confident. That will give the players a wee boost, and obviously the atmosphere at Firhill on Friday looked incredible. There was a really good crowd in, and they should be, they should be feeling good about their opportunity. This is, as you say, the best opportunity, and I absolutely no disrespect to Livingston, but you don't have Dundee United or even Johnson or whoever this year contender. You've got Livy, Dunfermline. Like, these aren't teams that necessarily are going about this with expectation. Maybe this will actually, given that, and obviously fans don't really know the ins and outs of how much money comes to spending or whatever, but based on the players that they managed to retain, based on the guys that they've got in, I think it's probably fair to say this might have. They've certainly got one of the biggest budgets in the division this season, given some of the worries that they've had over the past few years. That suggests to me that as a club they've gone, right, let's go for it, this is our opportunity. So why not? Why not this season? If they don't go up this season, who knows what that means going forward. I think, as I say, they are right to be. Sorry.
But yeah, I would have to agree about what you're saying with the whole confidence sort of thing. It definitely seems like, it's like they did do well last season to push St Johnstone all the way, but just with St Johnstone, being a pretty decent sized club, a pretty decent sized Premiership club on paper, it was always going to be a bit of a challenge. Whereas with Livingston, whilst yes, they do have the backing of the Ford family, as we have mentioned before, it doesn't feel like they feel more vulnerable than other Premiership clubs that come down, if you get what I mean. So, yeah, this definitely feels like a big opportunity for Partick Thistle, because the last time Livingston came down, they didn't win the league. They finished second behind Falkirk eventually, and even then they really weren't impressive that time around. So it will be interesting to see how this kicks on for the rest of the season, but it definitely seems like advantage is very much on Partick Thistle's side already at this point of the season.
Yes, however, it's entirely possible that in 3 weeks' time, Livingston could be ahead of Thistle. It's not out with the realms of possibility. So I'd give it a little bit more time before people start making confident statements about how the rest of the season is going to go.
I mean, could you only imagine what statements we'd be hearing if Kieran was on?
Yeah, well, that's a valid point. Yeah, so fortunately he's not.
Yeah, it definitely would be probably a bit over the top. Kieran would be going about claiming Partick Thistle have already won the title, and I know that Thistle fans were like that pretty early last season, coming towards
Yeah.
November, but bit new record for them. But we'll move on to the Saturday fixtures now, where we head to a game that is between the sides expected to be at the opposite end of the table come the end of the season. That is, of course, Stenhousemuir hosting Greenock Morton. Yeah, as mentioned, like the two sides expected to be the bottom two, and this game, oh, well, watching the highlights, it really showed it. After a couple of chances, including what was basically an open goal for Stenny and a few at the other end for Morton. First half would see both teams going level at 0-0. Second half, though, would see Morton start with a great chance, a ball finding its way to the back post, but it would be headed over from like less than 6 yards out. And Stenny would end up taking the lead as Michael Anderson would charge into the box and fire his effort into the bottom corner just before the hour mark. After a decent amount of chances for both teams, a second goal would finally come with Gus Stevenson getting a second for Stenny, with his effort sneaking in at the near post in the 92nd minute to give the hosts their first win of the season and their first win at this level in about 50 years. As I was alluding to earlier, this game, judging by the highlights, it did not look out of place for a League One game. This looked really poor on both teams. It wasn't the. I think the conditions might have played a bit into it because like I was watching through the Morton TV highlights and that thing was shaking.
Okay, fair enough.
That was shaking, but yeah, Stenny probably do deserve the 3 points, whilst Morton, it just like you feel like with the current situation, a game against Stenny is probably their best chance of getting at least a point, and they've gone and done that. Like they had plenty of chances, but just no clinicalness whatsoever, which has been showing all season so far. With the fact that we've now played 6 competitive games, plus they have a friendly, and they're yet to score. Like I think on the Sunday, Morton's women's were playing, and it's like they reported a goal, and like it was probably like the most popular tweet for a while because of the fact that you had the Morton fans celebrating the fact that one of their teams scored a goal.
Yeah,
it was really just not looking good for them. And like on the day of this recording, Ian Murray, oh boy, he's been out in the press, and instead of trying to do like some kind of firefighting damage or whatever. No, he's just thrown petrol on it. He's just thrown petrol in the fire by saying about how they were doing training yesterday and they're not doing training for the rest of the week because they were down to, like, I think they had 13 players take part in training. 2 of them weren't fully fit. They only did part training, and one of them was, I think it's like something Greenock, like the young lad who came on against Thistle.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're basically down to 10 players, and like what? Like how bad? This must be like the worst summer of a championship team, like for a very, very long time.
So I'm gonna disagree with you on a point there because you said that Ian Murray isn't doing any firefighting. For me, he is, but his firefighting is purely for his own career. He's doing nothing to reassure Morton fans that he's still trying to work with the group of players that he's got, which is what he should be doing. He should be going, look, okay,
this is what I meant. It's pure self-preservation move.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, that's what I was going to talk about there. It's incredible, and I think, do you know what? See, from a purely footballing perspective, if I were a Morton fan, I'd be saying, look, he doesn't have much to work with. It is what it is. However this goes, it goes. I believe I read somewhere today that they have this vote coming up shortly anyway for this potential Estrella investment. So that could bring a little bit of funds into the club, but nothing's been confirmed there yet. But Murray will know that. He'll know that they still have this potential to bring a bit of funding in now. Granted, we're getting quite late in the summer for it to make a difference for this transfer window. But he could have a little bit to work with in the coming weeks, maybe loanees or whatever, because you can obviously sign loanees into September. But After his comments today, which are frankly ridiculous and selfish, if you ask me, because he's trying to cover his own back. He's making sure that when this eventually collapses one way or another for him, he'll be able to point at all the nonsense that's been going on in Morton and go, "That wasn't me. Look at the good seasons I've had as a manager." And after that today, I think if I were a Morton fan, I would want rid of him. Obviously, the problem is how are they going to do that? How are they going to pay for that? And realistically, who'd even replace him with is going to do a better job at this stage. But yes, they're in a bit of a state right now. Not having scored a single goal yet is like I could almost understand if they hadn't scored in the first two league games. Whatever, that happens. Teams have bad starts, but the fact that they never scored any goals against three lower league sides in the League Cup as well, that's incredibly concerning. And on the kind of just regarding the match on Saturday there, I've seen some of the highlights. Don't think Stenny will care whatsoever about the quality of the game. They'll just be absolutely buzzing to get 3 points over the line. They'll feel as though that
I
they're
was sort of alluded to this anyway. It's just like for them, like this season is very much just get points however way you can.
yeah,
Like,
100%.
the expectations are like at floor level for them. Like they've got by. If it wasn't for Morton right now, they'd have like by far and away the lowest budget in the league, and like their part time as well. Like
Yeah,
it's like on paper they are like the stereotypical most likely to be a punching bag kind of team, but they're not. They're not being a punching bag or anything. It's like it's almost like every game this season for them is going to be a cup game,
yeah,
if you get the sort of vibe. But yeah, going back to Morton and Ian Murray, it's like you were saying about how, like his about like the self preservation with his comments, and it's like you mentioned about the Estrella deal. That's meant to be put to a vote on Monday, so that'll then get ratified then, and they should be able to get players in. But it's a whether case of you can trust Ian Murray because of the fact that I think they're down to like they've only got like 4 defenders in that team, and like even after the League Cup stage, Morton made a signing, and it was Mackenzie Cars.
yeah.
He's a midfielder.
And
He's
he's
a
and
midfielder.
he's
So
also he's also not that good.
even
He played for us before, and he's not a great. I mean, he was released by Stirling Albion, so that kind of suggests no disrespect to him, obviously, but it's not particularly reassuring. Do you know what though? Even then, like if I'm right in saying, I believe, and I don't know what the kind of updates are on them, the severity, but I believe Harry Cochrane and Ian Wilson both get taken off with injuries on Saturday too.
yeah, they both
Where
got
does where
injured.
does it end for them? Where does it end for them? But I feel as though, look, it's all fun and games focusing on the mess that is Morton. But I have to say, you really have to say fair play to Stenhousemuir at this stage as well. You know, they had a fantastic League Cup group stage. They won their group ultimately with the two favourites for the championship title in it. They went to Starks Park on the opening day and they grinded out a result without playing too much football, but they grinded out a result. And then they're going into the game with Morton knowing that how significant points against Morton might be over the course of the season. And did they do much? No, they created a couple of half chances here and there. They bundled the ball into the net a couple of times. But ultimately, they got the 3 points, and I can tell you, I can assure you, nobody's going to be caring how they got those 3 points. They'll just be looking forward to it because it looks as though they've got it's one of these teams where you've got the team spirit and a bit of momentum, and who knows? Like I wouldn't bet against them against anybody in the division right now. I say knowing fine well that we play against them next, but we'll worry about that when we get to it.
Yeah, like, it's been a very good start to the season for them. Like absolutely nothing to take away from them. Like really good for them. Like I'm happy for them. Like obviously I'm not happy that they got a point at Starks, but it's a really good win for them, and they won't care how they get them. But quickly going back to Ian Murray's. Because as you were saying about the self-preservation, it's like the point I want to make was about how Ian Murray can say about this season so far about how there's been the off-field issues with finances and him not being able to build a squad or whatever.
Yep.
What excuse is he going to have for last season? Because that was when they had
It's an alright squad
of a team, and I think he only got like 8 points or something like that.
Yeah.
And like they were very close to being relegated from maybe not like the most comfortable position when he came in, but like they have been rotten.
We made them worse.
Yeah, it's been like I think they've played at least 20 games now, and I think they've won 20 games now under him in all competitions, not including the friendly against Stranraer. They've won 4, and one of the defeats was 4-0 to Stenhousemuir in the cup last year when Stenny were a League One team. So that's an aggregate score of 6-0 so far. Well, I will say though, that's actually improvement because obviously the first game was a 4-0 loss and this one's been a 2-0 loss. So come, I don't know, January or something when they next go to Ochilview, it might finish 0-0.
1-0 or a 1-0. If they're lucky, they might just lose 1-0 this time.
Oh yeah, they're just going to keep on halving it.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to go. But yeah, Morton just look in an absolute mess.
They're not in a good place. I would be very, very worried about what the next few months are going to look like if I were a Morton fan. But obviously, as I say, they do have this vote for the potential additional funding from the Australia group, so we'll see what goes on. I have to say, I have my reservations about a group that spelt Morton wrong on their website, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, it will be interesting because I think if there's going to be any records that we're going to keep an eye on this season, it might be that Brecon City 4-point record. I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll reach that bad, but
no, I can't.
You never know in this division.
No, you don't.
No, but all right, moving away from those two then, and we'll go into the South Glasgow game. That is Queen's Park against Raith. Two sides looking to get their first win of the season as Raith travel through to Lesser Hampden, taking on Queen's Park. Enzo, of course, you were at this game whilst
I was in attendance. Yes,
about 200 away fans able to fit.
203, I think it was.
I mean, I think there was closer to 250 because of the fact that it's like one of the supporters' buses. Like every time we play against Queen's Park, they just buy out all the hospitality.
There was a lot there. Yeah, because my seat is, I sit kind of between the hospitality and where the away fans are, and the hospitality looked as though it was about half Raith fans as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably yeah. But I believe we've actually, I don't know what the reason for it is. I don't know if it's going to be every game, but we seem to have slightly cut the away allocation this season. Because last season we were offering teams about 250 tickets, but I believe it seems to be down to about 203. I don't know if that's a permanent thing, if there's a reason why we did it on Saturday, who knows?
I've got
we'll see.
No idea, but yeah, I'll let you talk about the game then.
I mean, it is what it is. I thought we were... Well, I'm going to start by doing something that I haven't done much over the past year and a bit, because he hasn't given me any reason to. But I have to say that's the first time I've come out of a game and gone, Sean Crichton, you got that wrong big time, and your lineup was wild, to be honest with you. So the team lines come out on the, let's say 2:15 or whatever it would have been on the Saturday, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, there are 4 wingers and 1 midfielder in our starting 11. What is going on here? And it turned out what was going on was Aidan Conley playing centre mid rather than on the left wing, along with Scott Martin. Callum Smith was playing again, and I don't know if I've talked too much about Smith on this podcast, but broadly speaking, I think he's been a really, really disappointing signing for us, and I was surprised that he got a contract extension, but I was thinking, right, I'm give him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't look great when he came in last season, but he hadn't played much football, he'd been injured. Crichton seems to be weirdly loyal to him though, and he seems to be, he seems to keep giving him a game when I personally don't believe deserves to be in the starting lineup. Starting lineup woes aside, I thought the first kind of 10 minutes of the game or so, it was pretty even. It looked like 2 pretty average sides, and I thought something's going to happen here. One of the teams will break and it'll finish 1-0, or maybe it'll finish 1 each or whatever. But I would say that as the game kind of went on, obviously early doors, Raith they were forced into a substitution because Lyle went off injured, and Callum Adamson, who's on loan from Rangers, came off the bench. And I have to say, I thought Adamson was excellent when he came off the bench. He had a really, really good game. Probably one of Raith's better players over the piece. And then the first Raith goal. I mean, how would you describe it? It was a bit of a kind of slightly lucky bounce. Would you describe? There was certainly a
very
an element of fortune. Yeah, it was one of those ones, and it just kind of lands at. Remind me who scored it.
It was Charlie Telfer.
That's right, yeah. So it falls to Charlie Telfer, puts it into the back of the net, and I'm thinking, okay, we'll get into half time. We did get into half time, and I'm thinking he's going to make a couple of changes. The only change he makes was Matty Shields went off and Ricky Lamy came on, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not good because Matty Shields going off at half time suggests that maybe he's hurt himself. I have subsequently heard through the grapevine that he's fractured his heel, which is a massive, massive problem for us. Because Shields has been one of our best players since he became a bit of a regular in the starting lineup, so I have no idea what that means for us, to be honest with you. And Ricky Lamy came on, and at a certain point in the second half, forgot that he was playing football, thought he was playing volleyball or something instead.
Yeah,
Ball comes into the box, and for some reason, despite the fact that he's also maybe the biggest guy in the park, decides to jump up and just slap the ball out there. I have no idea what was going through his head. Possibly one of the wildest things I've ever seen in a football park.
Yeah, it's like I heard about it, and I just thought, oh, there's no way. He's probably like had like his hand, like sort of like roughly head level or whatever. But then you look at it, no, he's standing. He's like the Statue of Liberty in the middle of the box. Like he's jumped up and like probably like volleyball slam kind of thing.
Yeah.
Movement.
Yeah.
And
no idea what he was doing there, man.
What?
I've just become accustomed to us, because I think I mentioned this to you as well. Like since we got promoted to the Championship, Queens and Raith have played each other. That was now 17 league games we've had in this spell of us both being in the same division. And in those 17 games, Raith have had 9 penalties, which is it's a lot of penalties. But I would say it's a combination of, a lot of them is just sheer incompetence, man. Some of the daft penalties that we've given away to Raith are crazy, and a few of them are down to the fact that I think Raith they like to chuck themselves to the ground, if I'm honest with you. But that wasn't the case on Saturday. That was insanity, man. That was just pure insanity. I have no idea what he was doing. And then up steps Anton Dowds, who converts the penalty. And then with maybe about 10-15 minutes to go, Crichton decides to make a couple of changes. He brings on Ross McLean, who should be starting from the beginning because he's an excellent player. McLean slots in the middle of the park. Aidan Conley moves back out onto the left wing. Jack Hamilton, who missed I forgot to mention this earlier on, actually, when it was 0-0, Jack Hamilton had a kind of 1v1 through on the goalkeeper. As he gets to the edge of the box, he takes like a really funny heavy touch, loses it a little bit and can't get a good shot away. That was disappointing. But Michael Ruth also comes on. Smith goes off. And we look at
it. Quickly talk about the Jack Hamilton chance.
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
It's like the common consensus amongst Raith fans was the fact it's like at first they were scared and then they realised it was Jack Hamilton who was running through, and like when obviously it's like the fact he scored twice in the League Cup.
They did. They were both headers though.
Yeah, I want to say he scored twice in the League Cup, so it was a case of hold on a minute, maybe this is him finally getting back to that sort of form he showed when he was at Arbroath. I want to say like a few years ago.
It was on loan at Arbroath from Livingston.
And then, it's like that happened, and it's like, that's a Jack Hamilton we know.
It's annoying for me because I really do think, and obviously don't get me wrong, like around the same time that we were making these substitutions and bringing guys on, Raith made a few changes as well. I can't recall who off the top of my head. But I really, really feel like, and he's done, Saturday was much worse, but I think he did it a little bit in the game through in Livingston as well. And I think Sean Crichton, for whatever reason, I think it's because he's got quite a big squad. He's got too many wingers, quite a few forward options, I suppose. And I think he's just overthinking it right now, and it's not that complicated. Like, just put your best players in the park. Don't play guys out of position to try and accommodate others. Like, just put your best players on the park in their best positions and go for it. And I think might have been a slightly different. I mean, Raith might still have won, who knows? But it would have certainly given us a better chance. And on the Jack Hamilton thing, well, I think he'll be okay for the most part. I don't think he's going to score a huge amount of goals. Michael Ruth for me should be our main man up front. And I think again that's something that Crichton will discover over time. But yeah, really, really disappointed. Really, really disappointed with how Saturday went. Not that I didn't necessarily expect to win, but I thought we would. I was hoping we would at least be able to scrape a draw. And now we're in a. Obviously, we've got this week's break, and I don't know if that's a good thing for us or not. But then we come back from that. We've got Stenhousemuir at home. Then we've got Thistle away, and I really feel. I mean, our record against Thistle's terrible, even when they're not that good, and now they're an excellent team. I feel there's a lot of pressure on us to win that Stenny game, because if we are 5 games into the season and we've got 0 or 1 point, that's just that the pressure will start piling on, and people will start getting concerned then. Raith well worth the win. Raith were absolutely well worth the win on Saturday. By the way, just the comment I'm giving you from a Queens Park perspective, obviously. And I know you weren't there, Callum, obviously, but I think Raith were well worth the win on Saturday. They over the piece. That no doubts whatsoever that they did deserve it.
Yeah, it's like from what I heard from those who went and like the general consensus, and of course Doogie's post-match interview, it was a case of we were a bit aside. Of course, it was a bit back to the wall for the final 20 minutes. Of course, after Queens got their goal, which I don't think you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't matter, does it? We got one back when Crichton made all those positive changes. We got one back. Ross McLean was the player that I was referring to being absolutely fantastic. I'm really, really excited to see what he can do over the course of the season. I think he's a phenomenally talented young midfielder who can kind of play centre mid or up to kind of pushing slightly behind your strikers. And he managed to find the back of the net. It was a bit of a scrappy goal again, but it went in, and that's all that mattered. And I really think, I really hope Crichton can find a way to make sure he's on the park as much as possible going forward, because I do think he has a serious talent.
But yeah, as I was saying, is like when Doogie was talking in his post match interview, he was saying, yeah, it's like it could have easily been three at half time or something like that, and possibly more throughout the game. But then he did say it's like once it got to 2-0, it was a case of just sort of just see out the win. That's the reason for the changes that he made, but then ended up becoming very back to the wall towards the end. Josh Ray made a really good save from what I'd seen. But
he did an excellent save from I can't recall who it was that hit it. But he made an excellent save where he got up and kind of just tipped it over the bar.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just really nice to see that we've actually been competent away from home already this season, considering how absolutely turgid we were last time around. It's always like last season we only scored 9 goals, and I think it was probably a similar points tally as well. So to get a win, 2 goals, it's like probably getting that sort of away hoodoo off the back, early runnings. Of course, I hope this continues, considering our next away game is at Dunfermline. So, if we get 2 wins in a row away from home, it's like, oh, here we go. This season might be looking good for us. But yeah, you were saying about Queen's Park and their 5 games having 1 or 2 points or whatever. It's like, as you mentioned, it's like you got this break and you got St at home, and you got Partick Thistle away, but then you got Morton at home. Yeah. So, on paper, that's 2 games there that are very much winnable. Of course, Stenny probably being a bit tougher right now than
of course it is.
Morton,
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, there could possibly be some real pressure going into October time, because after that you've got Dunfermline away, Ayr at home, and then Arbroath away. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how the rest of this opening start of the season goes for them. Speaking of there being no game next week, I'm probably also quite thankful for that. It's like we were saying about Murray running out of players. Obviously, with Aaron Lyle being injured, that's another one on the injury list. Thank God we got that Callum Adamson on loan, who I'm glad to hear has impressed on his debut, because
he looked good.
I think I said about how I was hoping he'd be like Paul Enzo, who I was raving on about last season. It's like I've seen some Mirren fans comparing him to Pogba, and it's like that's something that I said in this group chat back in March, March or something like that. And so if Adamson ends up like Enzo but over the full season, I'm going to be a very happy man with him. But yeah, with no game this week for us is a good thing, just because of the fact, again, as mentioned, with the injuries, we should see most of the squad back for either the Ayr game or the Dunfermline game. Who knows who's going to come in from on loan? But yeah, it's it's like having 4 points from the 2 games so far. I think if you were to ask me beforehand, I'd be pretty happy with that, but obviously I expected it to be the other way around, beating Stenny and drawing with Queen's Park. But, it's like, we'll take those points. We take those points every day of the week. Yeah, anything else you want to add, Enzo?
Nah, I do sort of wonder, though, whether we always really struggled against Imre's Morton teams, and I thought there was a bit of a curse when it came to us playing against Morton, but I'm now wondering if it was specifically a Dougie Imrie curse and he's taken that with him to Raith, because we've struggled every time we've played against you since you came in, so we'll see.
I was going to say, I think that's... Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's 3 games... No, 4 games because of the Challenge Cup. So that's 4 games played between us and 3 wins and a draw that we ended up winning on penalties in the Challenge Cup. I think that's how it's been so far in 2026.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully that run continues.
Hopefully not.
Alright, moving on to the other side of Fifelo, we do have Dunfermline at home to Ayr United. Dunfermline looking to get their first win and their first goals of the campaign, whilst Ayr look to build on their 2-0 victory over Arbroath last weekend.
Yep.
Dunfermline, however, they would get the opener in the 14th minute. Andy Todd with a side foot volley would find the bottom left corner. It was a really tidy finish, this one. Really nice technique for it. But then Dunfermline would come close to a second after Clell Harding, on loan from Dundee United, I want to say. He just ran through that Ayr United team. There's barely a challenge being put in. It went past like 5 or 6 players. Manages to get a shot away at the edge of the box. Pretty powerful one, but Harry Stone manages to tip it over. And then just before half-time, Debaga would make a pretty good save from an Ayr corner that was going into the bottom corner. But then it's like, that would end up leading to a corner. And then Debaga would end up putting that corner out. And then from that corner, it would find Luke Macbeth at the back post, who manages to put that one away. So 3rd time's the charm for Ayr United in that aspect. Second half, however, would see both sides having some pretty decent opportunities, but there was definitely a mixture of poor finishing and great goalkeeping involved in the second half. Like, Ayr had one where like the boy just like sat down 2 Dunfermline players inside the box and then just absolutely skied it. And then Dunfermline had a really good chance late on, but like Harry Stone again with a really good save.
Yeah.
Like right at the death, that would see the game finish 1-1. So Dunfermline 2 draws to start the season so far. Definitely not what they were hoping for, but this was definitely a game where you look at the chances they had and you look at the chances Ayr had, and like this was definitely a game that could have gone either way. And like in regards to Ayr United, I think they're going to be thankful that they have Harry Stone, because like I mentioned about some like the save that he made against Arbroath that denied an equaliser, and of course the 2 saves here that stopped Dunfermline from possibly getting the 3 points. He's probably earned them 3 of their 4 points so far. Enzo, anything to add about this one?
No, I actually think, I mean, from what you can tell from the highlights, it's difficult to say when you're only watching a short kind of compilation and not a full match. But I think both teams will probably look at that and go, do you know what, that could maybe have gone a little bit worse. I think overall, yes, as you said, Dunfermline will maybe be disappointed that they're a couple of games in and they haven't picked up a win yet, but it's not the end of the world. They have a really strong team. They're still making signings, which is incredible. Guys that you've never ever heard of getting added to the squad during the week. It felt to me like the game was very much 2 teams with different approaches. Dunfermline really, really going for it, especially kind of out wide, which is their which I think is where their strength lies in an attacking sense. And Ayr seemed in a lot of ways quite happy to just kind of soak that pressure up a wee bit and then try and get out quickly on the break. I don't have too much to say other than Harry Stone looks like a phenomenal goalkeeper. I know we've all seen him at this level before. It's not his first jaunt into the Championship, but given what Ayr fans have had to put up with under Scott Brown's tenure with a different goalkeeper every week, they'll be quite excited, I would imagine, to have somebody in that they can rely on that's likely to be their number one week on week without giving them a heart attack and without him having the fear that a manager's going to hook him for, I don't know, putting a goal kick slightly out wide or whatever it might be, because I think Brown's bar was very, very low for making that change.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot more settled with that, and actually seeing a goalkeeper play back-to-back games for United, it definitely helps with defensive solidity and understanding, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's like Harry Stone, I believe last season he was on loan at Airdrie for the second half of the season.
I mean, he's been about, it feels like he's had about 1 million loans over the years. which is incredible because I think he's, what age is he? He's like,
I want to say like 21, 22.
is he really? Is that right? Yeah, no, he's not. He's 24 already. He's
24?
24. Yeah, he's 24. He'll be 25 before the season's out. But that, goalkeepers develop at a slightly different rate, I suppose. I don't think that's unreasonable to say. Although I do think that's relatively old for somebody that, because he's been on loan over the years at, he's had loans at like, was he not Thistle briefly? I don't know if he played much for them. I think he was at Albion Rovers. He's been at Queen of the South. Wasn't he? He was at Ayr before as well, wasn't he? This is his second spell at Ayr, and then Airdrie briefly. Yeah, so Hearts clearly see something in him though, because I think they gave him did they not give him a contract extension as well when they were sending him out on loan?
I think they did give him a contract extension before we got shipped out. So I'm not sure if there might be. I thought he was good at Airdrie last season, so if he continues with his development here at Ayr, it's like, as mentioned, he's had 2 pretty good games so far in the league this season.
Yep.
If he continues that way, then, obviously with European competitions, you've got homegrown quotas and that whole sort of thing, so possibly that's why he's been given that contract for a case of, it's like probably like a pretty solid backup for Hearts, depending on whatever goalkeepers they end up bringing in, whatever the data says. So it'll be interesting to see how his career develops in the future at Hearts, or whether or not, who knows, it's like, I've got like some decent backing, maybe, I don't know, like loan ends up being permanent, but probably unlikely at this point. But yeah, as you say, it's like with Dunfermline, they definitely feel like they're still building because they've had a weirdly slow transfer window, I would say. Like, I think people were expecting more. It's like Ash Knoxborough, they brought in, but he was out injured, and they had the bagger who they also brought in. But I think it's like before the season started, they'd only brought in like 3 or 4 players, and
they lost a few too.
Yeah, and they definitely they lost like 10. I think it was in the double digits, the amount of players that had left East End Park. So yeah, to have only brought in, I for obvious reasons, I don't keep count of how many players Dunfermline have brought in, but it feels like they've not really done much so far. So will be interesting to see how that progresses, because they look fine. Like, they don't look like the side many were expecting. But I mean, hold on a minute. During the week, they
signed 2 random guys that you'll never have heard of before, and apparently one of them looked quite good on Saturday too.
And there was. Did they announce Neil Lennon had a new contract last week?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
I feel like they did. Yeah. So.
But I mean, managers' contracts aren't really worth the paper they're written on. If a manager wants to leave, he's going to leave.
Yeah, but yeah, it seems like this month they're starting to actually do things in the market. But yeah, just another, like, not really much to go off for Dunfermline again. It's like up at Inverness last week, it was just a case of not having their shooting boots, and then with this one, they found it temporarily, but Harry Stone got on the way. But speaking of Inverness, we'll move on to the final Saturday game, and that is, of course, their fixture away at Arbroath. This is 2 teams looking to get their first goals and wins this season at Gayfield, with Arbroath looking to recover from a 2-0 defeat at Ayr, whilst Inverness drew 0-0 with Dunfermline last week. Inverness were nearly gifted an opener as a back pass would be intercepted by Babbage, but his first time effort would go wide. First half, however, was pretty much all Inverness. Like, McAdams had to make a few good saves during this first half, especially. Arbroath in the second half, they started to work their way. They definitely got like half opportunities. Like, they got the ball in the box. I don't want to use Barry Robson's favourite term of ball entries in opposition box or whatever, but there started to be an uptick in that. But they never really tested Ross Monroe. I mean, like, watching the highlights, I don't think he had to make a save, really. But yeah, whilst McAdams at the other end, he would make a few more saves to deny Inverness. And yeah, this game would finish 0-0 yet again. Arbroath, as mentioned, never really looked like a threat at any point, and can consider themselves lucky to get a draw in this instance, I would say. Cali, meanwhile, if they had any sort of composure up front, they'd be sitting on 6 points.
And
So far, rather than 2.
I think a lot of people expected that to be their issue this season, to be honest with you, because I think over the piece, from what you can see from highlights anyway, it does look as though Arbroath can maybe count themselves lucky to even come away with a point. But ultimately, Inverness, they just don't have that much about them up front. Babbage missed a chance. I think he missed a really good chance last week as well. I did say when we did our preview episode that I'm unconvinced by Alfie Babbage at this level. I know he had a decent-ish season last year. I know Inverness fans were really pleased to get him back. But of the two Alfies, I think he's maybe not. He's not the better of the two, put it that way, without wanting to be too harsh. And I just I don't know where Inverness go from here, because I think like they've probably got a decent enough keeper, solid enough back line. The midfield, guys like Ryan Duncan probably aren't going to, well, I guess you want to maybe call him a winger rather than a midfielder necessarily, but guys like Ryan Duncan in that, I've seen him before at us and at County. He's not really very good, and I think Inverness fans are maybe starting to think the same of him based on his performances so far. If they can start scoring, then they might begin to look like a real threat. I just don't know where that real kind of cutting edge is going to come for up front, unless maybe they'll get lucky in the loan market and bring somebody else in before the loan window closes. I don't know, but of the guys that they currently have in their lineup, like I can't see anybody there that's going to get you more than maybe 4 or 5 goals in the league over the course of a full season. Arbroath, I don't know what to say about them. I thought they looked. I mean, there were moments, maybe especially in the second half, where Arbroath looked a little bit more threatening. But I think there probably is some cause for concern with their performances so far. But again, Arbroath are a side that are going to want to tap into the loan market towards the end of the window too. And clubs do tend to see them as a solid option to send young players out on. So I don't think they're done with their business yet either.
Yeah, it's like with Inverness, as you were saying, Ryan Duncan, he's played 90 minutes in both the games so far, and he's labelled as a striker or forward on FlashScore, and he was involved in a lot of the chances against Dunfermline last weekend, and there was definitely he definitely should have got at least a goal there.
Yeah.
And it's like same with Alfie Babbage, but it's like with Alfie Babbage you can be like, well, he's young, he's only 20, he's in on loan from Aberdeen. And then you've also got Miller Keir, who they signed from Turriff.
Yeah, that's right, Turriff.
You've got Morgan Bates as well. He's 19.
He's the one that's on loan from Swansea, isn't he?
Yeah, and then you've got can't believe I forgot about this. Louis Longstaff is there as well, but he's the oldest of their forwards, and he's 25. They've got a very young forward line.
Louis Longstaff is one of my least favourite footballers of all time,
and I have to agree with that. It's like you look at that, and there's no one there that screams championship striker.
No, but there's again. I don't think that squad is finished. I think they'll bring somebody else in. The question is really, is it going to be someone with the quality that's maybe going to take them to the next level and become maybe like a promotion playoff contender? I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, that's definitely what seems to be the case there with Inverness. I'm trying to think. They did top the league. They did.
Yeah.
But what were the scores there? Yeah, a 1-0 draw against East Fife, 2-0 against Linlithgow, 1-0 against St Johnstone, 1-0 against Morton, and then 2 0-0 draws. There's not really that much firepower, it seems, there at Inverness.
It seemed defensively quite solid, which will get you, that will take you so far. But is it going to keep you away from the bottom two if you start going on a bad run and you do start conceding a few goals, or is it going to elevate you to the next level where you might like to be? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, because that's what happened last time they were in this division under Duncan Ferguson, where it's like they finished 9th, but they had the second best defence in the league. They only conceded.
I remember that. That was strange, yeah.
But then they also only scored 40 goals, and it was again, it's like I think only Arbroath who finished bottom or worse. It might have been at most 7th or 8th best attack in the league. They just nil-nilled their way through the league season and ended up costing them.
Yeah, it's such. We all know it's such a difficult position to fill. Like if you really want somebody that's going to bang in the goals, you need to either get lucky with someone from a lower level who's making the step up and ends up, being fantastic, or you maybe need to get a loanee in that ends up, being maybe slightly higher standard than what you were expecting as well. Even last season, I think I don't think I know they won the league. They scored 60 goals last season. Queen of the South, they finished third, scored 58. It's not a huge goal tally. I mean, obviously they still ultimately got it over the line in the end, but yeah, I do think. And I'm sure Inverness fans will probably agree with this, but that does seem to be the one thing that they haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah, it definitely is just a case. I've seen what was it, John Rankin? He's a Hamilton, and he was talking about the signing of Lewis Gibson, who they've signed from Raith this week.
Scored last night already, did he not?
Yeah, he scored on his debut, which is good for him. I don't think it's just a case of it never really worked out for him here at Starks. But he was saying how it's they're struggling to get strikers because I think he was saying that the top clubs just seem to be holding them all right now, which it's like there's still half the month of August to go. And of course, the September loan market is there as well. So, yeah, it's like in the case of both sides, there's definitely going to be a bit more movement when it comes to squad building there. But I think that'll be it when it comes to covering the games. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, not at all. Just worth highlighting that a couple of Championship clubs are obviously in cup action this weekend. Thistle travel through to Edinburgh to play Hibs on the same day that I believe Inverness travelled to Edinburgh to play Hearts, which is a bit wild. Dunfermline play against is it Ross? No, who did Dunfermline play? Dunfermline play against Ross County. That's right.
Dunfermline are at home to Ross County. Ayr United are away to Kilmarnock. That game.
That was. I was leaving that till the end because I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I think that'll be a really good one. Yeah, as you mentioned, Inverness and Partick Thistle both going through to Hearts and Hibs. That is interesting to say.
On the same day, Hearts and Hibs playing at home on the same day during the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah, that is incredible work from those who did the draw and the scheduling or whatever. Just unreal. And then of course Stenny, they are at home to Motherwell. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's your League Cup fixtures. Of course, as mentioned, there is no Championship fixtures to look forward to. So whilst who knows, there might be a general cup podcast including the Premiership lot, but if not, then we'll be back for the following fixtures. Of course, with the league table, it is currently Partick Thistle on top with 6 points, the only team with a perfect record. It has taken 2 games. They're followed up by a trio of Ayr United, Stenny and Raith Rovers, all 3 of which have scored 3 goals. It's just that we have conceded 2 and the other 2 have scored 1. Then it is Livingston, who are in 5th on 3 points. Then it's Dunfermline and Inverness on 2 points. Arbroath in 8th on 1 point. Queen's Park and Morton are tied bottom with 0 points. It's just that Queen's Park have scored a goal. So, yeah, incredible difference maker there. But of course, we are only 2 fixtures into the season. But as mentioned, we will be back covering the next round of fixtures, which include Inverness at home to Partick Thistle, which has been moved to the Friday night. I'm sure Kieran's going to love that. Just once again, Partick Thistle on the TV. They're just massive this season. But yeah, I'd seen complaints about the fact that, obviously it's like travelling up to Inverness or Ross County or whatever on the Friday night. It's a bit of a pain in the arse, but it is like there has to be 3 home games from every club on the BBC or whatever. Or
a maximum of 3. They don't always pick 3.
Yeah, it's like maximum of 3 or whatever. But yeah, it's like I know they're a bit geographically isolated, but these teams have to be on the TV at home at some point. Yeah. But it's like for those who are going, just be thankful it's on a Friday night, because I remember Raith having it on November or December or something like that, and it's like my brother driving back down from there. It's like got to Abbey Moor and his screen washer was starting to freeze over. So So yeah, be thankful it's in the summer and not in the winter. Your Saturday games, though, you do have Livingston at home to Dunfermline. That'll be a tough test for both teams, I'd want to
Yeah.
say. Morton, they're at home to Arbroath. Again, who knows how that's going to go, especially with Morton. Maybe they'll sign somebody and not rely on a bunch of kids who are now going back to school.
We'll see about that. I forgot about that. I never thought. What happens? Oh, it's a Saturday, isn't it? They just can't train during the week.
Yeah. But then you got Queen's Park at home to Stenny. As mentioned, he's saying there might be a bit of pressure on Queen's Park in this one.
It certainly, yeah. It feels like we can't really go much longer without a win, and we certainly won't get it the following week against Thistle. So this is the chance to do it for Crichton to redeem himself and sort out that ridiculous lineup he put out on Saturday there.
Yeah, we'll see. It's like Stenny, they're proving to be not as easy as other
No,
people.
no, I don't. I do not expect it to be easy at all.
Yep. And then, of course, Raith Rovers, they are at home to United. You know, it's like with the starts that both teams have had so far, I reckon this will probably be a quite even, but also quite a good game. You know, I don't think there's really been a dull game between the two sides. Like, very rarely tend to be dull affairs. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, of course, as mentioned, we will be back for those fixtures, definitely. So, in that case, goodbye for now.
Thank you.